thank you for coming. Well, welcome to the Eller's Distinguished Lecture Series, where we bring in leaders from a variety of sectors to come in and talk about what's going on in their life. And today we're going to hear about an interesting company that many of you in the audience I know are very well familiar with. It's going to be fascinating. Based on my talks with Jack earlier today, to hear what he has to say. I have a bit of housekeeping, and that is to say that if you want to come on down, and there are seats kind of interspersed in some of these rows. And in fact, if some folks could, even if you got the opportunity to slide in a seat or two, you might do that to make room for some of the folks that are kind of back up in the corners that might want to come down. But feel free, if anybody's standing up those corners that wants to move down and find a seat, we can help you do that here before we get started. Well, it's a thrill to have Jack Tretton here. Jack is President and Chief Executive Officer of Sony Computer Entertainment America. He's been in this sector for 24 years, 21 of it specifically in video games and related kinds of consumer products. And he's been with Sony Computer Entertainment America since its inception, I think 1995 is when you guys launched. It's amazing what this company's been able to do with their core products in a very short amount of time. He's really been, commanding the ship of this thing, managing all aspects of it. And they've built, as you all know, a wildly successful gaming platform that goes well beyond just the PlayStation line of products, but involves all kinds of online things you can do with this platform and online purchases that you can do related to PlayStation. And I think you're probably leaning a lot on your background at JVC and a lot of the other companies you work for come across. It sounds like that all sort of worked out great to sort of put you in the position you are now, managing your company. So John is a graduate of Providence, and you won't hold that against him because his son, John, up there, John, raise your hand, is a sophomore here at the University of Arizona. So at least you sent one our way. So we can't hold against you for going to Providence. I think I've also we've got students that have spent time at your company, and it sounds like we're going to do more of that. In fact, Gavin, why don't you raise your hand? Gavin's in our MBA program. He spent the summer interning with Jack at Sony in the Bay Area. This is where you spent the summer. What'd you think? Pretty good summer internship.
That was amazing. It's reaffirmed my whole decision to go back to school in the first place.
Yeah, excellent. He's back for a second year in the MBA program. And so, without any further ado, it is my privilege to give you Jack Tretton of Sony Computer Entertainment America.
Thank you, Dean Jessup, and thank you everybody for taking time out of your day to come out and join me today. Dean pointed out, I am a wildcat parent. My son John will kill me if I don't correct the Dean here briefly. He's a junior, so sorry. But he's right about the fact that you should hold it against me for going to Providence. I'm from New England. I thought the world ended when you got past Connecticut, and if I'd known about Arizona, I would have probably been smarter and come here. But my son, at least the generations improved. He came and visited Arizona as a junior in high school and was just struck with it. And so am I. And so I really, as I've come to the college to visit him, I've become more and more impressed with the university. So I reached out to the development office and said, if there's anything I can do to help you guys, I'd like to do it. So, that started with the speaker series, and we've expanded on it greatly. But after me there, as the Dean said, President and CEO of Sony Computer Entertainment, I've spoken in and at many different venues in front of large crowds, but I can't say I've ever done it in the classroom setting. It's freaking me out a little bit. I feel like I should be on that side of the desk. I can't believe that somebody's going to listen to me because I was the guy that was just kind of floating through space, not paying attention to the words the professor said and trying to cram for the test the next day. So it just doesn't feel right to be on this side of the table. And any of you who've done public speaking before, I'm sure you hear all these goofy tips, picture the room being naked. I never understood that. But I'm a very competitive person, so I like to picture this entire room as being PlayStation 3 owners. And let's face it, we're on a college campus. I'm sure there's a lot of gamers there. I'm sure we've got a lot of PlayStation 3 owners. But I suspect that we have some Xbox 360 owners in the past. It broke my heart with my love of the University of Arizona to see a YouTube video of that new giant video screen, the largest on the West Coast, being played with Wilbur the Wildcat against one of the students on an Xbox 360. And as impressed as I was with that video screen, I was equally impressed that 360 didn't break during the game. And let's face it, we all like to kid our rivals and our competitors, and in truth, 360 is a great gaming experience, but I just feel ours is far superior. So I guess, technically, I consider 360 to be the ASU of video games. Just want to talk about why we're here. I alluded to it a little bit earlier, reaching out. But let's face it, if you're in the gaming business, where is there a more target-rich environment than a college campus? And as far as college students themselves, you guys are tomorrow's leaders. You're the creative thinkers. You drive fashion trends. You drive entertainment trends. So what better place for us to reach out as a brand and as a company than on a college campus? It gives us a great opportunity to engage with students, to do recruiting on campus, to get people into our internship program, and to really bring our brand here. And that's all come together for us this past week. So this is the first public speaking engagement that we'll do as a company at a university. We're going to stop at a couple of other key universities this fall. Cal and USC will be handled by a couple of my colleagues, and I took the top two schools, U of A and Harvard. So I'll be going there next month, and I'll be talking a lot slow because they're not sharpish guys. So, our internship program, Dean touched on it a little bit. We had Gavin in our program. It's a 2-year-old program. You got to put it in perspective. Sony Computer Entertainment didn't exist before 1994, and while our program is only 2 years old, we're incredibly proud of what we've accomplished in just a short period of time. We target 60 interns for the summertime, 15 for the fall, and on average, a third of those have become full-time employees. Really, every discipline. I think the typical expectation with a gaming company is we're going to bring in people with graphic artist backgrounds, computer science, but really across all our disciplines, we've had key interns come in, and it isn't about making copies and getting coffee. These are people doing incredibly important jobs and contributing to the success of this company. And if you look at the list of universities representing, you'll see that, as the Dean points out, the University of Arizona is there. We had Gavin in our program, and through no small coincidence, he worked for our SVP of Strategic Business Development, who's a 1981 graduate of the University of Arizona. So our executive team has a wildcat on it, and we hope to add more of you over time. But you can see that we just don't recruit on the West Coast. We do have some specialty schools in graphics design and computer science, but really we target the who's who across the country, and we're able to go coast to coast and really attract great students to our program. So we're real proud of that. Hopefully you guys saw it on the wall that we had our PlayStation Experience truck there today, and tremendous engagement. I think we attracted 2,000 students this week there. We led in with our smaller truck and all our tents, and great engagement with all the consumers. We're at the tail end of the tour right now with that 90-foot truck. Can process a lot of people through it, 20 kiosks, a great opportunity for us to do event marketing. And as I'm sure as you guys experience as consumers, the money that you spend on a TV commercial and the amount of people that ignore it, DVR it, and blow through it, starts to question your justification in marketing investments in TV. I think the digital space makes a lot more sense. It makes a lot more sense, but experiential marketing, reaching out to our consumers one-on-one at promotional events and college campuses like the U of A is tremendously valuable for us to really engage our consumers directly. This is the most boring part of the presentation, but I'll touch on it for a couple minutes. It's my background. I went to Providence College and graduated from there in 1983 with a Bachelor of Science in Marketing. It's a small liberal arts school on the East Coast. Between my business requirements and liberal arts requirements, I think I had 2 electives the entire time. But I got a degree in marketing, was forced to take classes like philosophy of art and development in Western civilization. And I said, why do I need to do this? I'm going to be in business. So when I graduated with my degree in marketing, I said, well, I'm going to become a product manager. I'm going to work for an ad agency. Well, you find out as you start to look at consumer products companies or target certain industries, because there's a heck of a lot more people in sales than there are in marketing, especially at the entry-level stages. So I ended up in field sales with Duracell Battery Company, covering Maine and New Hampshire for Duracell. 237 field sales reps. Never considered myself a salesperson. My idea of sales was the guy that knocks on your door and tries to sell you insurance or something, and that just wasn't my style at the end of the day. But I did fairly well with it, and I remember it was a relationship business. And to be with a large CPG company was a great experience for me. They put you through a lot of training, things that I remember today, the 5 successful steps to selling, and I thought it was a great, groundbreaking program. But the thing that was limiting to me is I said, well, I'm one of 237, how do I get to the next level? How do I get that guy's job? And the response seemed similar to the military. I mean, well, you put 5 years in here, and then you become that, and 5 years after that, you become this. And I'm like, well, what if I want to jump 2 steps? Like, well, that doesn't happen. So I really wanted something that was a little bit more entrepreneurial, and I had a younger brother. I come home from college, and our bond, since he was 12 years younger than me, was to play the Atari 2600. And so when I heard about Activision looking for salespeople, I said, this might be a little bit more up my alley. It was an industry that was in transition from the Atari 2600 days to PC entertainment. I said, this is an industry that I think is a little more freeform, a little more entrepreneurial, and really at the early stages, as opposed to a more sophisticated CPG company like Duracell, that was part of an even bigger corporation in Garden Craft. And when I left, my father said, you're absolutely crazy. You're with a great company. Why would you ever leave them to get in this fly-by-night business? And 25 years later, the career is working out fairly well, but my father still thinks I'm crazy. So I started at Activision, and as I said, they were transitioning from the Atari 2600 cartridge stage into what they always thought they were going to be, which was a PC entertainment company. The popular belief in the mid-'80s was that video games were great, but they were toys, and ultimately the PC would replace the console. And ironically today, I'm still being told that something can replace the console, but 25 years later, it hasn't happened. I spent 5 years with them, worked my way up the sales ranks, was VP of sales when I left. Went through 3 different CEOs. Some of you may not even know Activision changed the name to a company called Mediagenic and focused on business software and entertainment software. I ran the games portion of the business, and they basically spent it on these sales endeavors. The 3rd CEO came in as the current CEO, and he focused them back on gaming. They've been incredibly successful. But through that tumultuous ride over 5 years, I said, I need a little bit more stability. And that was my first foray with a Japanese company. JVC, a large Japanese company, took a division from their music side of the business and from their electronic side of the business and formed JVC Music and Industries. We used to distribute LucasArts games at Activision, and they had a joint development deal with them, and they hired me to start a games division for them. They had a lot of good content in the pipeline. I signed a 5-year contract. Liked the stability of it, grew very well with them, became general manager after a couple of years as head of sales and marketing. And ironically, through these 2 steps in my career, I was working for California-based companies, but I was living on the East Coast, kind of commuting, because I was responsible for sales as well as general management. Most of the major retailers were east of the Mississippi at that time. And then came the PlayStation opportunity, and at the time I was 33 years old, had 2 young kids, and the opportunity there was there's no option to do it from the East Coast. You got to relocate to the West Coast. I said, okay, well, I consider that, but I need a contract. They said, no contract. I said, okay, well, I'll consider it, but I need to be a VP. They said, we can't make you a VP. You got to be a VP. We bring you a director level. I said, okay, I'll do it, but I don't want to run sales. They said, we need you to run sales. So that's how much I believed in the PlayStation vision. I worked so hard, as I said, to dig out of that sales pit and into a more general management role. I'm like, here I am going right back into sales. I'm going to relocate to the West Coast, 3,000 miles from my family. And when people offered me opportunities with Activision or JVC to move out west, I'm like, I can manage the local Burger King a little better than I can with an executive job on the West Coast, given the cost of living. But at 33 with a young family, I said I never want to look back on my career and say coulda, woulda, shoulda. This company really seems like it's got a lot of great potential. I'll give it a shot. I'll give it 3 years, and here I am 16 years later. I've pretty much held every position in the group. Started as the director of sales, became the VP of sales, took over merchandising, took over product development, marketing, was COO of the company, and then ultimately CEO in that role since December of 2006. So enough about me. Let's talk about the PlayStation experience in the gaming industry. As I said, when you look at the business pre-PlayStation, and there's a lot of great platforms out there, video games were considered a toy for boys, something that 12 to 17-year-old boys played. Platform life cycles were 5 years, they peaked in 3 years, then crashed and burned, and everybody said video games are going away. And some new platform would come away and relaunch it again. And it was really the mid-'80s that I think Nintendo deserves a lot of credit with Sega for bringing the business back with the Sega Master System and the Nintendo Entertainment System. And then they also had a second good run at it in the early 90s with the Sega Genesis and the Super NES. But throughout this period, people were still considering gaming to be more of a toy than mainstream entertainment. It was still 2D-based characters, narrow genres, fighting, racing, in sports, and really didn't appeal. And you saw a lot of kids play games when they were younger, but when they got to their 20s, they wouldn't consider themselves gamers anymore. And so you had a very large lapsed audience. And that's where we really saw the opportunity with the original PlayStation. And two things I want to point out here: the name PlayStation, and there were several names that were kicked around. And the name PlayStation came out of Japan. When we first heard it, we thought it sounded really goofy. Today, it's such an established brand that it seems like the perfect name. But the term PlayStation is combined with a workstation, a high-end PC, and play. Obviously, gaming considered play and entertainment. So PlayStation being the power of a workstation for play. And the name of the division, as opposed to being called PlayStation, Sony Computer Entertainment, the vision there being this is much more powerful than a standard console. This is basically the power of a PC in a console device. And we see this division as Sony Computer Entertainment. And again, that seemed like pretty lofty aspirations in 1995 or 94. It seems to make a lot of sense today. We did some things that I think were very revolutionary. First of all, are you doing something that is a quantum leap from the technology that already exists? The PlayStation was 5 times more powerful. We had a disc-based system which gave you a lot more flexibility and content capabilities. And really our first foray into multimedia, having audio CD playback, as well as the ability to play your games. And then, given that 5-year product life cycle and that ugly valley that the industry went into every 3 years, we said for this to really make sense with this multi-million-dollar investment, it was actually about $600 million, we're really going to have a 10-year product life cycle for this thing to ultimately pay the type of dividends that we'd like it to. So the other thing we did is envisioned a new business model that we still subscribe to today. And we said this is the ecosystem. First of all, if the consumers don't like the device, you're dead. You've got to have something that appeals to consumers. So understand what consumers want and deliver that to them. But there's two other key components in there. There's the development community. If you want them to build the groundbreaking games that are going to attract the consumers, you've got to come up with a business model that appeals to them. And then ultimately, the retailer's got to have the product on the shelf, give you the merchandise that you want, and bring it to consumers. And again, we're talking about the mid-'90s, so the internet didn't come into the fray. It was all brick and mortar. With our system in disc-based games, we were able to take a business that had cartridge-based manufacturing that would cost $25 to $35 wholesale cost, would require 90 days manufacturing lead time. So if you look at the development community, you had to go out and spend your $10 or $15 million at that time to develop a game. You had to place a bet if you were shipping a game for the holidays on how many units it would sell. You had to pay the manufacturer, in that case Nintendo or Sega, $25 to $35 a cartridge in addition to all your development costs. And then if you guessed wrong, you had to collect a worthless inventory that you were sitting on. If you guessed wrong on the low end, the demand was great for your product, but by the time you remanufactured 90 days later, the consumer would move on to another game. For the retailers, they had to make that big investment too. Bring in all that inventory, either take the risk of a flood of inventory or run it very lean. What you ended up having on the shelf for consumers was a bunch of games that didn't sell that nobody wanted, and the games people did want, there was no room on the shelf or people couldn't afford to manufacture it. So it certainly contributed to the demise of the generations on a 5-year period. We really felt like we had a great business model in the PlayStation that was going to work for all those three constituencies. The other thing, when people looked at Sony as being able to compete with the leaders at the time, Nintendo and Sega, they said, well, come on, Nintendo is gaming, that's all they do. They're a great company, they've got Mario, they've got Donkey Kong. If you look at Sega, tremendous heritage in coin-op arcade, they know games. We think Sony can make a good hardware platform. What the heck do they know about software? I tended to agree with him prior to joining the company because when I was running JVC's gaming division, we competed with a Sony division called ImageSoft, which just spent a lot of money producing pretty crappy games and never really had a great deal of success. Well, because we knew that was the challenge, we invested in product development on the software side really before we ever shipped the first PlayStation. It is far and away the biggest investment in our company. We have 16 studios around the world, 2,700 employees. It's bigger than both of our competitors' development efforts combined in terms of number of employees and number of studios. The other thing that we realized is it's nice to attract third parties to develop proprietary software for your platform. But again, when you look at that risk model, they want to hedge their bets across multiple manufacturers. So if you want to have proprietary software that gravitates people towards your platform, the only way to control your own destiny is to develop the games yourself. And if you look at some of the key franchises that we've created most recently, this is some of the main reasons why you can buy a PlayStation 3 over one of our competitors. And these are the results. We launched it in September of 1995, and we did successfully expand the audience. We ended up with an average demographic of 22 years old. That meant we were able to attract an older consumer and a younger consumer, bring in some of those people that were lapsed gamers, really bring in that more sophisticated gaming, appeal to a male and female audience, appeal to a worldwide audience, and ultimately we did 120 million units in a 10-year period. So while we're incredibly proud of that, as we look to move on to the next generation, all the analysts and the press remind us that, congratulations on your success with the PlayStation. You had no shelf space, you went against two formidable competitors, you did a tremendous job, but you realize that no company has ever repeated that success 2 generations in a row. Somebody's always come in to take over success for them. And that was a challenge we faced with the PlayStation 2. What we really felt, again, that we had that quantum leap in technology beyond the original PlayStation, the PlayStation 2, that was really true, getting towards true mainstream entertainment, true multimedia experience, introduced online gaming on our platform for the first time. We had backward compatibility, so your PlayStation 1 games would play on PlayStation 2. We saw those two 10-year product life cycles bridging each other, so as the cost came down in the original PlayStation and we got a more casual audience and lower priced software, you could ride that for 5 years while the wave built on the new generation. The other opportunity that we thought was great was the DVD playback and adding tremendous value to the machine beyond just the gaming capacity. And at that time, in 2000, we still had a lot of people owning VCRs. DVD players were $300, $350, and the adoption rate was relatively low, especially among young consumers. And all of a sudden, when people bought a PlayStation 2 to play games, they realized they had a DVD player in their house, and they started consuming DVDs. We had everything to do with the establishment of DVD being successful and really contributed to other divisions of Sony for the first time in our existence. And these are the results by the launch of October of 2000 to today. We've sold over 150 million units worldwide, 2.5 billion games sold on our platform. 1 in 3 U.S. households had a PlayStation 2, and we carved out a 72% market share. And as you can see, the bar continues to get higher. And as the person who's running that division, you go, well, I'm proud of what we accomplished. The pride from Japan is only what have you done for me lately. So that's a tall order to try to exceed. The other thing we looked at was the portable space, and much like the console space, we thought that the portable space was not something that appealed to an older consumer. The Game Boy was the dominant platform. We've certainly all seen it in the back of minivans and on airplanes while the kids kick in the seat, but not something that your average 20-something is going to be walking around with unless they're a hardcore gamer. And we thought there were similar opportunities with the portable to the console to really bring in multimedia for the first time, have movie playback, has built-in Wi-Fi, the ability to use Skype, TV and internet radio, and we did usher in that older consumer. We've sold over 70 million units worldwide. That's pretty long in the tooth for a portable device, being almost 7 years old now, but we continue to do very nice numbers on the PlayStation Portable, and I'm proud of the evolution that we've brought to the portable space. So this is the challenge that we have, and the thing that I hope you're seeing parallels in is I feel that there's a lot of parallels between what I try to do with my career and what I think we've tried to do with our company. And one of the things I said to one of the students I was talking to today is you're a product, and you've been forming that product your whole life. With your accomplishments prior to high school, what you did in high school, what you're doing in college, and hopefully you're realizing what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are. You're playing up your strengths. You're trying to improve your weaknesses. You're trying to position your skill set with the marketplace or the industry or the profession that you're attracting yourself to, and you want to market yourself to that space. So it is believing in that vision, whether you're a product or whether you're an individual. So the considerations for PlayStation 3, especially after having 2 very successful generations, was, do we do a PlayStation 2.5? Do we bring something out with a 72% market share that just takes advantage of the success we've had, is an evolution but not a revolution, something we can bring out a lot cheaper, will probably serve us well for about 3 to 5 years, but it's probably going to peter out with a little bit more time. And we made the decision to swing for the fences and try to create a future-proof machine in the PlayStation 3, and something that would clearly stand the test of time and bring us to places that we only imagined going to with the original PlayStation. We feel like we've established the future of gaming with things like a built-in hard drive and a Blu-ray player, and high-def 1080p gaming, built-in Wi-Fi, our PlayStation Network and HDMI capabilities. These were all things that were available out of the box in 2006. And today, it's kind of like a list of no duh. Of course I expect that to be in my console, and I think our competitors have tried to add as much of that as possible. But if you think back to 2006, the answer was, what the hell is 1080p? What the hell is Blu-ray, and why do I need it? Built-in Wi-Fi, don't care. HDMI, Wi-Fi ports. All I know is this thing is $600 and you guys are crazy. We certainly had to suffer through that for a period of time, and the sad part was, at $600 we were losing our shirt. So the question was, did we go a bridge too far? Ultimately, I think as we sit here in 2011, all the stuff that was aspirational in 2006 is the cost of entry today. We've sold 52 million units worldwide, almost 500 million pieces of software so far. Blu-ray has established itself as the standard for high-definition disc-based playback. We have 50 gigs of storage capacity on the disc alone. Every machine we sell has the hard drive built in, so you can take advantage of everything available on the network, stream all your content, download all your content, and that applies to the first unit we sold in 2006 and every unit we have today. We've added a lot of functionality into the box through our network, the ability for every one of those machines to play 3D movies, 3D games, the motion controller, introduction most recently. So we really feel like we're sitting in a great spot in 2011 where the PlayStation 3 is just hitting its stride, and it's virtually impossible to conceive technology that could surpass PlayStation 3 right now, and this is for a machine that is already over 5 years old. So a lot of legs in it, and hopefully those very hard investments that we made in the beginning in 2006 are going to bear great fruit for us in 2011 and beyond. So the question is, what's next for the company, and where do you go from PlayStation 3? Obviously, I don't have to tell everybody in this room, social connectivity is such a part of our culture, and you need to have a relationship with the consumers directly. You don't depend on TV commercials anymore, and this is an area where we fare extremely well. We've got 17.3 million people following us on Facebook, which makes us the #1 CE brand, #9 overall in the world. We've got 1.1 million Twitter followers, 113 million views on YouTube, and our blog is extremely well received. We get 7 million views per week. So the social space is something that we've carved out a lot of expertise in. The other thing is, well, what about the threat? You know, it was the PC in the mid-'80s. Now the threat is going to be these freemium games or these small form mobile games, and I'm sure there's a ton of people in this room that have played Angry Birds, but we see this as being additive. Clearly, there may be some consumers that used to be console gamers or dedicated portable gamers that just don't have the time anymore, and the mobile phone or the tablet is good enough for them. But I firmly believe that there's a much greater amount of consumers that would never consider playing a game that may get into it in one of these short-form games and ultimately get hooked on gaming. So I see this space as being extremely additive as opposed to a threat to our business. And to me, if I've got to get you interested in gaming, it's a much harder job than you're already interested in gaming. I'm just going to migrate you over to our platforms. Now you look at the different devices, whether it's the tablet or the mobile phone. Again, I see this as being additive because I don't think many people confuse the experience of playing on a mobile phone or a tablet with playing a 3D game on a 60-inch TV on a PlayStation 3. And you know, I made the examples to some of the students earlier that, you know, despite the fact that there's great home theater, people still go to the movies. It's a different experience, and people tend to upscale in technology, not downscale. That being said, PlayStation is ubiquitous. We want to be wherever gaming is. We will certainly participate in that with some of our smaller form content, and some of our older games, and things like PlayStation Suite will bring some of our key franchises to mobile phones and tablets, and several games are already there. But this is ultimately where I think the future of gaming resides. The long-form Call of Duties, the Uncharted, the $40 million investments in games that appeal to 15 million plus consumers worldwide that want to be played in high definition in 3D. People are spending hours and hours doing this. And again, I'm probably preaching to the converted in a lot of instances, but it's a lot easier for me to envision a consumer going from Angry Birds someday to Call of Duty than it is to envision somebody saying, you know, Call of Duty just doesn't cut it for me anymore. I got to buy Angry Birds. The Vita. This is our next generation portable device. And while you say, why would you ever get into portable gaming again? The mobile phones do so much. At the end of the day, a tablet and a mobile phone isn't a game machine. It's a tablet and it's a mobile phone. The Vita is a dedicated gaming device that will bring you a console-like experience and console power comparable to the PlayStation 3 in a beautiful handheld portable device with a 5-inch OLED screen, with dual analog sticks, with front and back touch, with 2 cameras, with dedicated social apps for Skype, Twitter, Foursquare, and Facebook. And if you are a gamer at $249 with built-in Wi-Fi, we think there's a tremendous audience there. And again, if you're somebody who's dabbled in gaming through a mobile phone, we think you should start to get hooked. We can fabricate you over to a PlayStation Vita. So that's next for us. We'll be coming out in the United States in early 2012. So, our relationship with the consumers and the customers is extremely important to us. our consumers are incredibly passionate. It is not something that if you're a gamer you have a passive interest in. You're a PlayStation guy, you're an Xbox guy, you're a gamer, you wear it with pride. And the gamers and the consumers are why we're here. They pay my salary, the reason why we can justify being here, and we try to remind ourselves of that every day. So our new campaign is basically geared at celebrating our customers. And our new campaign is Long Live Play. Again, to celebrate the spirit and what it means and what it feels like to be a gamer. And we kicked off this campaign digitally on YouTube with a teaser commercial that had 2.3 million views on YouTube. And then we ran the first spot yesterday on YouTube, and we had 2.9 million views of it in 24 hours. So obviously the campaign is resonating with people, and for those of you who haven't seen it, I'd like to run that now.
I stay home.
Flying over the middle of the Google copy desk, looking for some boss sitting in the sand. Next thing I know, plane's going down. I'm hanging like a rag doll, 30,000 feet, just trying to hold on.
When I have the CA with me, the other half won't be dead. You brought out the good side. Tell me war has changed. So you do what you have to. I mean, how do you go? But whatever good I've done, it was him.
It was in the days of suffering when the gods made their light measure. When no mortal dared stand up to Zeus. He did.
Aloha. Been down on that godforsaken beach. Thinking of my life, I'll maybe die. But if I get up, there ain't no maybe about it. And one man broke through. Michael. When the Templars murdered my family, when the whole bloody roads go crazy, Elder said goodbye to Michael. For all he does, for all of us, to Michael.
Thank you. We're incredibly proud of that. I mean, I think you worked so hard in an ad campaign. Of course, an ad campaign now is not just about, as I said, a TV commercial. It's a digital campaign. It's having various treatments of that through many different channels, and based on the initial reaction to it, it's clearly resonating for us. So we hope that that's going to ultimately make people feel tremendous pride in gaming, but also feel pride in being PlayStation gamers, and ultimately attract some new consumers. Yeah, we're good to go with the deck. That's it for the video. I just had maybe slide a few more. Okay. So, as I said, and part of it was, you know, that story bores the hell out of me, and I know all that. It was here for you. But how does this relate to you? And I think a lot of the lessons that we've learned in our success in the gaming industry apply to you and your career path. Having a long-term vision that we believed in. You know, where do you want to be in 5 or 10 years? What is it that you bring to the table? And pursue that vision. And have a long-term vision. Don't just take life as it comes one day at a time. That's great for a general philosophy. It doesn't work so well in a career. Take smart risks and have the agility to adapt. The safest path isn't always the most successful path. But take calculated risks. But very few people have success without dealing with adversity We all go down some dead ends sometimes, but having that flexibility. Listen to others, but not letting the detractors sway your vision. Clearly, you can't be ignorant of what's going on out there, but there's always going to be a critic. There's always going to be an armchair quarterback. There's always going to tell you, somebody who's going to be a contrarian and tell you the opposite of what you're doing is what you should be doing. But if you believe in your vision, stick to the path. Staying 100% focused on innovation and our new consumers' needs today and tomorrow. Again, where is industry heading? Where is the field that you're pursuing heading? And staying a step ahead of it and being one of the people on the forefront of what's going on. That's the person who's kind of trailing along the back end and is the last person to arrive at the party all the time. So this is one way to do it as far as a company. My career is one way to do it as far as a career. But the key is to have that drive, to have that creativity, and to have that vision. And I think if you do that, you'll be very successful in your career. So I think that about wraps it up for me.
Thanks, Jack. I think we got time for some questions. Yeah.
What kind of lessons could you learn from the recent 3DS launch? It was kind of in the media about how it didn't sell as many units as they predicted. What would your company do differently with the PSE then?
Well, first of all, the term 3DS. We're big believers in 3D. We agree on that. But I think we believe that 3D is more of a living room experience than a portable device experience. And then the other key is to have great software out the door. And you'll see when Vita launches, we'll have the key franchises, we'll have the games that people are looking for, but you can't sell hardware without software. So those are the two lessons that I would take from their experience that I don't think they apply to us.
I think there's one back here.
You mentioned the PlayStation 2 success was contributed by its backwards compatibility. Why did you take that away from the PlayStation 3?
Well, at the end of the day, the challenge was bringing new technology and a new gaming experience and doing it at a cost-effective level. And everything is give and take. And the reality is, emotively, backward compatibility is great. It says everything that we bought in the last generation applies to this generation. In reality, though, the average consumer doesn't spend much time playing previous generation games on a souped-up new machine that they bought. There's no question, and quite frankly, if it was up to me, backwards compatibility was something that I would have liked to have seen us consider carrying forward on the PlayStation 3. But the goal was to get that cost down, keep the key functionality up, and appeal to more consumers. At $599, we could give you backwards compatibility all day long. To get to where the machine is today, to maintain the core functionality and be able to get it out there at $249. Unfortunately, backwards compatibility was something that had to be left behind. And I think we paid a price for that. I hope we've overcome that, but I definitely think that was something that made our job more difficult in the early years of PlayStation 3. But you don't hear it coming up as much anymore. But I was almost hesitant to point that out. Those are the facts. It really did play a key role for us on PlayStation 2. But now you got people now debating whether digital content or disc-based content is the key. Digitally we can bring you any PlayStation 2 or PlayStation 1 game. I guess the only challenge is if you own a disc on the previous generation, you don't want to pay for it again. So, like I said, there was a price to be paid, but it was a strategic choice to ultimately get the price down.
Hi, as a film student and just the fact that we're in the age of remakes and adaptations, I'm interested in your thoughts of adapting multiple PlayStation games into feature films and just what you thought about it.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Again, being in the industry, it's literally, I guess, 25 years, and it feels like 100. In the early days, Ghostbusters movie would come out, and then about 6 months later, a really crappy Ghostbusters game would come out. And it was movie to game. Gaming had nothing to do with the movie while it was being created, and then they dumped some assets on them at the end of the production process. It's quite the opposite now, where you have much more migration from gaming franchises to feature-length movies. And if a game and a movie are going to come out day and date, the film team and the gaming team work hand in hand together. I would tell you at Sony, we're probably not perfecting that, and we tend to have the philosophy that, the film company needs to do what's best for them, the gaming company needs to do what's best for them. And while we try to subscribe to the term Sony United, we're not going to force a fit where there isn't one there. So Spider-Man is a big Sony franchise, but we license it to Activision because Sony Pictures is going to make a lot more money getting royalties off a multi-platform Spider-Man game than they will on a dedicated PlayStation game. So those decisions have to be made. But the relationship between film and gaming is worlds from what it was before. You have feature actors that want to be digitized into games and want to do voice acting for games. You have major bands that either want to establish themselves through gaming or have their songs featured there. So, that's the point I made about mainstream entertainment. Gaming is no longer the bastard stepchild. We are at the forefront of entertainment and people want to be part of it. And I think film and gaming has a real symbiotic relationship as we sit here in 2011.
I'll go back up here.
I was one of the actual 2.4 million that saw the ad yesterday. And I just wanted to say, that was one of the best ad spots I've ever seen. It's on my Facebook status still. Secondly, from my perception, what I've seen is that PlayStation 3 featured a lot more innovation and cutting edge gaming. When you guys came out with the PlayStation Move, was your objective more to reach out to try to infiltrate in hardcore gaming, or to maybe expand more into the Wii's kind of, hardcore?
Thank you for the comment, and again, great question. Secondly, firstly, on the video going up yesterday, I was in transit to Tucson, and my email was lighting up with people I hadn't heard from or strangers, and I'm like, am I getting fired or something? And they were all people going, greatest ad I've ever seen, brought a tear in my eyes, and it's really moving to see that. I think we clearly connected with people, and I'm glad we connected with you. To your second question with the Move, we feel like we had the first experience with motion gaming with the iToy on PlayStation 2. A great opportunity to interact in front of the camera and have a great gaming experience, but very limited. And what we thought we would be able to do with Move is appeal to the casual audience, do the dance games, do the party games, but also appeal to the core audience and have a sharpshooter and to be able to play the kill zones and the resistances that are typically a much more core audience. And we believe that every game can be played with Move. We've got 125 either Move dedicated or Move compatible games basically proving that point. If you're a console guy or if you're a shooter guy that wants to use the dual shot, great, do that. If you want to do it with Move without the sharpshooter, do it that way. If you want to do it with the sharpshooter, that's great. If you want to play it in 3D or in HD, all of those options are available with the same piece of software. So we want to expose ourselves to the widest possible audience, and not force people to play 3D, not force people to do it with Move, but to just try to open ourselves up to the most diverse audience that we can, and that's the goal of Move.
There's one in the back, yes.
To elaborate on his question, with the success of the Xbox Kinect, where do you see the future of gaming going without a controller, without the tracking dot?
Well, again, I'll tell you, I'm a very competitive person, and my views are probably prejudiced. We were very familiar with the technology in Kinect. That's not Microsoft proprietary technology. They bought that. We were offered that. Our Move was developed internally, and we saw the limitations to Kinect that it has. It's great for a dancing game, but other than voice control, there's not much you can do with a core game or a sports game. And it's fun to kick a soccer ball for a while, but if you're a FIFA fan, it's very tough to do that on Kinect. What I will give them all the credit in the world for doing is kind of the Cabbage Patch style phenomenon, which says we're going to pour so much marketing into this that you're going to blindly walk into the stores and pay $150 for it because you are the controller. And if I'm told enough times I'm the controller, I'm the controller. The problem is after they sold all those Kinects, they didn't really sell any software. They just kind of petered out a little bit. But what it gave them the opportunity to do is say, hey, look at all this installed base of Kinect. You software companies should be making software applications for it. The problem you find in the development community with Kinect is you can't do a Kinect compatible game with anything other than voice activation. As I said, you need to build from the ground up a Kinect game, and that's a pretty big investment. We find that in move-dedicated games as well. So that's one of the challenges. The other things they did great was the PR machine and going, hey, you know, you can use Move to help rehab your knee, and I'm sorry, Kinect, to help rehab your knee, and, you know, universities are creating, you know, great Kinect experience. It makes for good PR. I don't know if it ultimately causes people to go out and buy the Kinect. I have a begrudging respect for Microsoft. They've got a deep vault. They're a smart company. They made a lot more success out of Kinect than I would have given them credit for. But I think in terms of the gaming experience, we have a superior experience with Move. But as I said, in that area, I'm very prejudiced, so take it for what it's worth.
Scrubbing down front here.
What do you think about possibly making a standardized gaming system that can play your games as well as your competitors?
That's the PC. And there's certainly a dedicated audience for it, but I think, you know, with something like an online and a cloud gaming experience, that's possible, but there are reasons why you buy a PlayStation 3, there are reasons why you buy a Wii, reasons why you buy an Xbox 360, or reasons why you play a tablet or a mobile phone, and I think you kind of have to match your interests and your taste with that device. And it's difficult to appeal to everybody. You kind of have to pick and choose your spots, and you know, the makeup of our machine and the way we approach our consumers is very different. I know the software development community would like to see that. I don't see it happening anytime soon. And like I said, the PC does exist in that area, and there are a lot of PC games.
Sure, one more back there, guys. Go ahead. Which one? You find it out.
How is Sony taking advantage of video development and online distributions in comparison to stuff like Steam?
Well, I think indie development is healthier now than it's ever been because of the network. And the vision of two guys in the garage creating a disc-based, you know, Blu-ray game that is going to compete with the Call of Duty is, you know, kind of like the Blair Witch Project type thing. It may happen once, it's lightning in a bottle, it's not going to happen on a regular basis. But with a digital game that can be developed for $300,000 to $500,000, can be done by a 1, 2, 5-man team, there's a better opportunity than there's ever been. And we really champion the independent developer, and we want to bring as much of that content as possible through our network, and we're having a lot of success with that small team.
Yeah, Jack, one last question. We lost a leader and a visionary yesterday, Steve Jobs. I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I know we met with the folks around the valley. But if you wouldn't mind talking for a minute about what he meant, he was not only a national business leader, but a global technology visionary. It was really quite a loss for the valley and for the rest of the world. And if you wouldn't mind just talking for a minute about what he meant to the valley.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. You know, that's several times today in the press interviews I did. I think he embodies all the points I was trying to make in terms of a career vision. If you know anything about his background, very unconventional, wasn't even a college graduate, was adopted, took some time and went over to India and converted to Buddhism, started Apple in his garage, sold his company, was basically driven out the door by Apple. He's somebody who had a vision and stuck to his vision, and he was a leader and an innovator, and it seems like everything he did in retrospect was absolute genius. And I think you know, there are people that grow up during great leaders and great technologists over the course of time, and those of us that were you know, consumers of products and involved in technology during Steve Jobs' lifetime will be, you know, profoundly affected by it forever. And there's not going to be another Steve Jobs anytime soon, but I think the ripple effect of what he's contributed and what he's going to be done is going to be felt forever. But I would not be want to be Mr. Football when I'm Steve Jobs.
Well, Jack, thank you very much. It's the Eller way is to lead in ways that create value and inspire others, and you've certainly done that all throughout your career, especially with your time at Sony and what you've done with PlayStation and other product platforms. It's a pleasure to have you here, and as a token of our gratitude, speaking of the Eller way, our namesake is quoted up there. I'd like to give you, just as a small token of our appreciation for you being here, a copy of this book, Integrity is All You Got. And that's Carl's message, leading with integrity, leading in ways that create value and inspire others, and we think you certainly embody that. That's not what I'm here, so thank you.
Thank you so much.
We're going to be up in the atrium for a little reception for the next 3 or 4 days. Join us up there.
With like the recent economic bust and basically a core demographic of 18 to 29-year-olds being having a 49% unemployment rate, is Sony actually going to pursue a more either freemium-based economic model, or are you going to look at different types of models to bring in revenue, but also appease the long-term consumers that love your product but can't afford it?
Well, I mean, I think the thing I presented was stay nimble, be flexible, don't be pinned to digital base or disc base or an existing format or a next generation format. And the exact same thing is true with software. We already have freemium models. We have small foreign games that retail for as little as 99 cents. Then we've got the big Uncharted 3s that retail for $59.99. I mean, the console model is something that you still have to invest in, but you can play free games or freemium models on the PlayStation 3 today, and you can play 99-cent games as well. So we like to think there's something there for everybody, young, old, various socioeconomic structures, and I think that's why we're having success, is that we're not just forcing everybody down one path.
Well, thank you.